This video is my attempt to focus on a specific dynamic or aspect of the KLINT Kubiak offense as it relates to his move to being the new head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to examine his 12 personnel group usage, in particular a formation that I call ACE. I'll give you 11 plays here. Do the Raiders have offensive line issues to address and fix to maybe be able to implement his offensive system the same way that Seattle did so quickly? Sure, but they've definitely got the running back to be able to handle it, tight ends as well, to operate out of a 12 personnel group. I'm going to break this up into three elements of his 12 personnel offense. The play action pass, which I think is foundational and obviously builds off of what would be considered part 2 or 1A, 1B maybe. And that's the under center run game from a 12 personnel from a 12 personnel group. And then finally some anomalous plays or screens that he utilizes to get the ball in the hands of the running backs and really take advantage of defenses once he knows how they're going to line up. Kubiak was only in Seattle, obviously, for one season, but one of the things I felt like was foundational, or his easiest way, most direct manner of attacking defense, was this 12 personnel formation that I call ACE. One tight end to the right of the quarterback, one tight end to the left. You'll get the all-22 angle in a moment, but there's another receiver off screen to our right-hand side. It's going to be a play-action pass that's built off of the run action. Kenneth Walker III here for the Raiders, obviously Ashton Gianti. At its core, what he's doing is he's creating run-pass conflict at the same time that he's creating horizontal conflict, meaning the running back flowing in one direction, in this case to the right-hand side for the offense, left-hand portion of our screen, and then tight end, receiver, and also quarterback, all going in the opposite direction. That's what I mean when I say horizontal conflict. It's a play action to Kenneth Walker, and then the quarterback going out to his left, our right-hand side of the screen. Obviously, the motioning tight end helps out with the pass pro, so you can call it max pro if you wish, but it all fits together in the run concepts and the play action pass, forcing essentially the edge defender to make a decision whether to be inside of this kick out block to the top side of it. In addition, it helps out when you actually do run the football away from him. It's a 2-by-2 formation originally, but after the motion by the tight end, it really almost becomes a 3-by-1. So here's what I mean. Tight end, receiver, tight end, and like I said, receiver off screen to our right. When the ball is snapped, the tight end is on the other side. So you got one tight end, a second tight end in the form of Arroyo, and then Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's going to catch this touchdown pass against the Cardinals off screen to our right. Like I said, I'll give you the all-22 angle, but layering or compounding the run-pass conflict with the horizontal conflict just changes the formula for the defense. They're no longer able to, quote, see the football when the quarterback is in the shotgun. It perhaps makes the game simpler. I certainly don't want to say easier for the quarterback. It's a classic Kubiak or play action concept whereby you've got a vertical from the side where the quarterback boots to, and then an over route from the opposite side. Like I said, I'll give you the end zone angle so you can see it for yourself. You can expect a lot of this in Las Vegas. I think this is one of Kubiak's most reliable and almost safeguarded concepts, in that it stresses that edge defender, defensive end, outside linebacker, whatever you want to call him, on the side of the play action boot. So what I'm talking about is this is the same play from the all-22 angle. This edge defender up here, as Sam Darnold boots up to that direction, you're going to get motion by this tight end. Sometimes it's a 21 personnel group, so sometimes the guy in motion is actually a fullback, but he's going to motion across, help out with the edge defender, and that's going to give Sam Darnold just enough time, in certain cases, not necessarily on this play, in certain cases, it's going to give the quarterback just enough time to be able to get the football off either to this over route, or sometimes it's a tight end who chips and then releases out into the flats as well. In this case, he's going to hit JSN, kind of a double move-ish route, stutters, and then goes to the outside, and then takes his route vertical, because the safety to that side, we're talking about this guy here, is orienting to deal with the over route from Rashid Shaheed. We're talking about that safety there, dropping down, recognizing that it's really an over, what some people call Yankee concept. You can see all the space that Darnold has. At times, you get these edge defenders. The Patriots did it in the Super Bowl. You get these edge defenders that'll really veer off for the quarterback now, essentially trying to take that away from the Kubiak playbook. You can see the horizontal conflict, running back this direction, quarterback that direction, opposite of each other, hence the phrase horizontal conflict. It's a change of pace by JSN, so a little bit of an outside stem or outside lean, and then takes the route up top. Huge touchdown. We've got other examples of it that I'll show you. I'm going to give you 2 play action concepts. Again, they're all going to be from 12 personnel. This formation, again, what I refer to as ace, I think is probably Klint Kubiak's best. As the season went on, and like I kind of referred to earlier, the Patriots in the Super Bowl would often take their edge defenders and veer off the quarterback a little bit quicker as the season developed, because defenses began to recognize the potential for the play action boot, particularly to the quarterback's left. Another dynamic that I want to mention here, and this is a play action pass, like I said, is I think week 5 against the Bucs, a home loss, is that Kubiak and even Sam Darnold, but I think it was coached into him, they trust everyone. You've got a situation here where they're throwing the football to a guy who has, I believe, 4 catches. First play was JSN. In this case, JSN is not on the field. I think you've got an over route from Cooper Kupp from the opposite side. It's a Kubiak dynamic, in my opinion, that they trust everyone's. Derek Young up to the top side of the screen. He's essentially a special teams player for the most part. But you can see the dynamic that I kind of talked about with this edge defender here. Stepping down, his shoulders are kind of turned a little bit as opposed to staying square. And then putting that conflict in his mind. He sees the football, so that's why he veers off. But when you get an example a little bit later, you'll see the Patriots OLBs, veering off to the quarterback a whole lot quicker. In addition, when you do see these play action passes, you oftentimes get the running back on this kind of like wider path. It's almost a little bit exaggerated, whereas if they're getting the football, it'll be more so a path like that. And these guys will kind of widen it up, and that's to put the second-level defenders in conflict for as long as possible, essentially to elongate the time by which they realize the ball has not been handed off, or in this case, tossed. This is a remarkable throw from Darnold. Like I said, it's Derek Young. Only got, I think, 4 career catches and 3 targets this season overall. This was one of them. It was against the Bucs, a fantastic catch. I'll rewind it a couple of times to give you the end zone angle of it as well. I think that is coached into the quarterback guy by Klint Kubiak. What I mean is trusting everyone to be able to make plays. As far as the personnel 12 and the formation ace, I think it's systematic. Kubiak has answers from this formation out of 12 personnel for pretty much anything that a defense can offer. You're going to see this look from NFL defenses in 2025 multiple times, this kind of 5-3 look. What I mean is you got 3 down defensive linemen, 2 edge defenders, so I'm calling that the 5, the first number, 2 inside linebackers, and then a strong safety or perhaps a nickel walked up to the field to create that third second-level defender, hence a 5-3. 2 tight ends, like I said, 1 to the right, 1 to the left. Derek Young is the target. He's off-screen to our right-hand side. There's the edge defender that's put in an extreme amount of conflict because of the potential of, in this case, a toss play. Sometimes it's just a good old-fashioned stretch concept. I'll give you one of those from one of the Seahawks games against the Rams a little bit later this year. I think Ashton Gianti and the 2 tight ends that are on the roster, Mayer and Brock Bowers, I know that there's injury issues to navigate there for him as far as hopefully getting back fully healthy, but I think it sets up perfectly for their personnel. I do believe that Kubiak is a guy who is maybe egalitarian, maybe not with the targets, because JSN I think got 164 this year, but I think he's egalitarian from the standpoint of multiple guys have made plays this season that wouldn't be considered high-level talents in a lot of offenses across the NFL. I'm talking about guys like A.J. Barner, Jake Bobo, Torrey Horton, the rookie, who's obviously spectacularly talented, but I think he ended up with 5 or 6 touchdowns this year. Kubiak uses everyone, in my opinion, and I think puts them in position to succeed. The final play action that I'll show you from the same formation, again, I'm specifically making this for Raiders fans who are trying to get familiar with Klint Kubiak's offense. I'm a day or maybe a day and a half late trying to get this in production, but this is obviously from the Super Bowl. 2 tight ends, 1 to the left in the form of Barner. He's going to be the guy that makes the touchdown catch. This one puts Seattle up 19-0. And then the tight end to the right, Eric Saubert, who had the game-winning 2-point conversion catch in the regular season against the Rams. This is a run-pass motion, and what I mean by that is you cannot tell whether it's going to be a run or a pass play by the motion. However, typically you do get the guy who's going to go in motion is looking to the inside, whereas the tight end who's not going to move is looking directly ahead of him. So you will see that pop up many times in the film as far as which tight end is going to motion from a 12 personnel group. Looks like man pre-snap, and once Barner starts to go in motion, these linebackers move over. You don't really get much of a movement from the safety, and so I think that's one of the things KLINT Kubiak actually wants you to do. He wants to get you into an 8-man front so you can, quote, try to stop the run, and then try to abuse you or take advantage with the play action pass. So this would be the run blocking scheme. And I'll show you the run plays here in a moment. Basically, it would be a double or a late combo on the edge defender, whereby the first tight end, the one that's closest or lined up there, engages the edge defender initially, and then the tight end who goes in motion engages him later on, tries to maybe expand him to the outside. So that line is not actually what Barner's going to do here, because he's going to dramatically run upfield and basically run by the inside linebacker who's responsible for him from a man standpoint. It was originally Spillane playing man on the tight end. Once you get the motion of Barner across, again, you see this kind of exaggerated path by the running back, really lateral towards the sideline, and that is so that Sam Darnold can keep the football out there as long as possible. Some teams do this in a different manner. Some teams just line the running back up a half a yard or almost half a yard deeper to elongate the time that the second-level defenders are put in conflict. Basically, they see the football or they see the quarterback's back turn and they don't know who has it simplistically. In any case, Barner is running by this inside linebacker because the conflict here has not been resolved. The ball's not been handed off, or it has not been kept by the quarterback. Sam Darnold's still extending it, and in this case, the linebacker is absolutely wrong. Cooper Kupp has actually talked about this one. JSN is off the field at this point, and Kupp apparently begins to run the wrong route, and that's why you see Kupp kind of get into the path of A.J. Barner. We're talking about how they almost collide right here. It's a big moment. It was after a turnover, and I believe puts them up 19-0. This is what Kubiak wants. I think, people are going to say, oh, well, they're just going to get in an 8-man front when we do this, when we go 12 personnel and get under center. That's what Kubiak wants, because he attacks it with 12 personnel play action. I've got probably 30 iterations of that this year, whereby I think, him and his staff in Seattle, and then probably next year in Las Vegas, if they can resolve the offensive line issues and figure out who the quarterback's going to be. That's what KLINT Kubiak wants. It's a great play call, this one in particular. He attacks that far right-hand corner of the end zone with tight ends often. You'll see another one a little bit later in the video. The motion is going to change the coverage. Again, Barner is, being guarded by Spillane here. Pre-snap, free safety doesn't really move much at all with the motion, and he certainly doesn't get involved from a coverage standpoint. So normally, the run angle path, something like that, maybe an outside zones, off tackle, your aiming point will be a little bit wider. In this case, the path that George Halani is going to take is going to push him more lateral towards the sideline. And that's so that the conflict is not resolved in time for the linebackers. In this case, Spillane has no one to guard, so he's just blitzing. But 51 does. He's responsible for Barner. And the conflict isn't resolved in time for him, so he's got a decision to make. Okay, do I take on the potential block by Barner, or do I turn and run with him if it's a pass play? He didn't know. That's the whole point. You have this elongation or lengthening of the conflict, and that's the whole issue that Kubiak presents. It's classic. It's traditional, if you ask me. Barner and Kupp, like I said, they almost collide with each other. That's because JSN would normally be that guy running the route. It's really because Kubiak knows the coverage, and it's something that you can ask Seahawks fans about. When they played the Rams in the playoffs, when they played the Rams late in the regular season, it was almost like every pass play that Kubiak called was perfect, to the specific coverage that the Rams played. I think that he does a great job in prep and parsing out, what the coverage is going to be during the game, allowing him to create extra space for players like this. A.J. Barner, super talented guy from Michigan, but in this case, the run-pass conflict is what made this all happen. It's really pretty simple, to be honest with you. It's not overly complicated, but keep in mind, a lot of the film that you're going to see from this video is against either a Super Bowl defense in the form of the Patriots or the Los Angeles Rams. Let's move on to some of the run concepts. Obviously, I could have packaged these in here first. I like the play action stuff. I think I think it's really what Kubiak wants to do. I think he wants to go play action and attack down the field deep, and he looks for opportunities to do that. Of course, these would be the jab or maybe the cross, with the play action stuff, being considered the left hook or the uppercut. So we're going to go to, I think, 4 run concepts again out of 12 personnel, ace formation, 1 tight end to the right, 1 tight end to the left. It's going to be an outside zone concept that I'll call a late double. But notice as well, it's a 5-3 look, that same 5-3 look that described earlier. 3 down linemen, 2 OLBs, or one of them happens to be a Sam linebacker, one of them happens to be a defensive end. In any case, count them the same way. 5 first-level defenders on the line of scrimmage, 3 second-level defenders, and 3 DBs. It's a late double as far as the motion goes, kind of what I described earlier, and you can see clearly how it kind of forces the defense into trying to guess, if you will, whether it's going to be a play-action pass with the tight end releasing. In this case, they got him switched. Barner is initially engaging the defensive end. Saubert is going to go and late double him, as opposed to the way it worked out in the Super Bowl where Saubert was here and blocked, and Barner ran into the back right corner of the end zone for the touchdown to make it 19-0. Kenneth Walker is super patient on these, but also has the explosiveness, the burst, if you will, to get through the lane. What I really love about this concept against a 1 high safety structure, 1 free safety on the field, is that since it's not a 2 high safety structure, now what they're doing is they're intentionally blocking the corner, but they're doing so late. Utilizing the tight ends to get that accomplished. First of all, Cooper Kupp dealing with the strong safety who's rolled up into the box. Run that back a couple of times so you guys can see the angle that Cooper Kupp has for that strong safety. In addition, the tight end who goes in motion and the tight end who was there on that side originally pre-snap, they're comboing the defensive end, and then the motioning tight end, once he's expanded, the defensive end, he's going to move up to the boundary side corner. So really you're getting everyone blocked. In addition, the offensive line, I think it goes without saying, the Raiders have to improve the offensive line, the coordination, execution up there, maybe even the talent level. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I think it's well known that the offensive line was a severe issue this season. They got rid of the offensive line coach. Fortunately, I think this concept fits perfect with Ashton Jeanty, a guy who has vision, but also who can burst and then break tackles, especially if those tackles are in the lower half of his body. Very similar to the guy we've got on screen here, and that's Kenneth Walker. It's an outside zone concept, and it fits perfectly with the play action pass from the Super Bowl, right? You got the motioning tight end who in the play action would release, up the seam and kind of run a corner fade route, if you will, using a wide receiver to kind of cheat the system. They've moved a strong safety up in the box. That's the third guy in the 5-3 structure. He just gets handled by the outside corner. The lane develops between the double team of the tight ends and the pin down block of the receiver. In this case, it's Cooper Kupp. Is perfect design, perfect scheme, if you ask me. Yeah, other stuff's got to get handled in here. Not really, here to break that down, because you got free agency and then you've got the draft before Clint Kubiak ever calls a play for the Las Vegas Raiders. My point is, I think this fits with the personnel, regardless, in fact, of who ends up being the quarterback. Let me make one point or talk about something that perhaps Raiders fans are not aware of. The Seattle Seahawks offensive line from 2024. Tremendous struggles. Injuries played a role there, don't get me wrong. Inconsistency, as well as the offensive scheme that was being utilized. Clint Kubiak is more than familiar with coming into an organization, Seattle last year, and in this case Las Vegas, and having to A, install his system, but also B, dramatically improve the offensive line from a talent and execution standpoint at the same time. Let's look at another iteration of the same formation. Technically, it's not 12 personnel, because I believe this is the rookie fullback for the Seahawks, Oots. But in any case, this is not outside zone or stretch. It's a toss double. So quarterback's going to reverse pivot, fullback's going to go in motion and help combo / double the defensive end. Again, this is a systematic approach. What I like about this formation the most is its balance. It's 2x2. Kubiak, in my opinion, in my observation over the course of 2025, observed how defenses played it, how they lined up, what they did post snap, and then he had plays to adjust or exploit, your look. The defensive end that's going to get comboed or doubled is Bosa up to the top. The motioning tight end, or in this case, motioning fullback, is going to really expand him. And it's a two high safety structure pre-snap. It's not a one high look, so that's different. So what San Francisco's trying to do is they recognize the formation and the tendency to run the ball behind the motion. They're stemming the defensive tackle underneath, trying to run this Mike linebacker over the top, kind of like a gap exchange between those two. As Fred Warner, before he got injured, he actually makes the tackle. He gets away from the center. It does require some athleticism with the interior offensive line, in my opinion. But it gives them a chance to go out and get people, be aggressive, go get out in front. And Seattle brought in Gray Zabel as a rookie first-round pick, and then Sundell was in his second season as an undrafted free agent center out of North Dakota State. Those guys actually played college ball together. Kubiak is going to focus on the offensive line. I think you will see dramatic improvement from the offensive line, especially as it relates to these types of plays where you're creating horizontal conflict with the running back in one direction and the quarterback in the other, holding or stressing backside defenders in a way that, maybe doesn't happen that often when the quarterback is in the gun consistently. The 49ers are a 4-3 team. This is their Sam linebacker basically walked up on the line of scrimmage to create a 3-4 or a 5-2. But in any case, the 49ers knew who was going to motion. Look at the safeties, 25 and 33, because, again, he's looking in here. This guy's looking downfield. So, they do kind of give that away a little bit at times. But the play action also can be a way to exploit defenses, kind of hedging towards that tendency. In any case, you get the motion across. Fred Warner makes the tackle because he gets away from the center, Sundell. But here's the double that I really want to focus on. It helps tight ends who are dealing with, super talented, big, strong, and physical defensive ends / outside linebackers that are, probably more aggressive to the football than tight ends are efficient in terms of blocking. It puts defenses in conflict, makes them come up with answers. In this case, I think it only ends up being a 6 or 7 yard gain. Their answer was stunt the 3 technique to the inside, fold him over the top. I think they're doing that so they don't have to run this guy down the line so much and or spin or rotate those 2 safeties after the motion shows. It's a 2-by-2 formation that can threaten either side of the field, both edges, especially when it's compressed. I think Kubiak is great from this formation at observing your look defensively and then having a counter for it. I would almost kind of liken him to the possibility or potential, for 2026 with his offensive system, and there's an improved offensive line. I would almost kind of liken it to Ben Johnson's arrival in Chicago before the 2025 NFL campaign. And what I mean is immediate improvement of the offensive line. If you're unfamiliar, they traded for 2 offensive linemen on March 12th, 2025. I'm talking about Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. And then signed a free agent center, Drew Dahlman, they being the Bears. 3 of their starting interior offensive linemen were brought in as veterans. I don't know that Kubiak is going to be able to do that necessarily. I have no idea what the cap situation is for the Raiders, but what I will say is I expect him to address the offensive line in a way that is both serious and also immediately going to improve the talent level that is there. More Super Bowl film, again from the same possession. I'm going to mix this up a little bit, or the same formation. I'm going to mix this up a little bit in terms of where the run play goes. So this is one of my favorite calls that Kubiak uses. Sometimes I think this is just a cutback by the running back. Sometimes, in my opinion, it is by design, and hence I will refer to it as a wind back. This is a great concept here. Again, 12 personnel, Barner here. I think it's Saulbert up to the top of the screen. So I will refer to this as jet dive. And basically what I mean is you're getting the topside tight end, motioning down. He's going to kick out the edge defender. This is not a double team. It's not a combo on that edge defender. The motioning tight end, like I said, is going to kick out or try to handle that edge defender. The frontside tight end, who doesn't move, in the case of A.J. Barner, he's going to work up to either the frontside inside linebacker or the strong safety if he rolls up. But the run flow, the movement post-snap of the running back, Kenneth Walker, is opposite of the motion. On the previous iteration or previous 2 plays I showed you, you had the toss double where these two tight ends double team or combo that edge defender, and then the running back is also working outside to that direction. Sometimes it's an outside zone or a stretch, and in some cases it's the toss. Here he's going opposite, hence the phrase jet dive. Jet being the tight end motion, and then dive opposite. There's a couple of things going on to talk about. Kenneth Walker does a great job of setting up the blocks on the defensive tackles. Talking about these two defensive players here, he'll kind of veer down this way for a moment and then explode back into this gap. I do think that there are times when this is predetermined, hence a wind back. In addition, from a Kubiak perspective, what made this really effective against the Patriots was how often the Patriots wanted to play man with Christian Gonzalez on JSN. Of course, he performed spectacular in coverage. I'm not saying he didn't, but Kubiak, I think, took advantage of that tendency by basically forcing Christian Gonzalez to match JSN's route and run him off. And that's the area of the field that Kenneth Walker actually ends up accessing here. I don't think it's accidental. Happened 3 or 4 times in that game where the run concept veered back to Christian Gonzalez's side. From a talent standpoint, Ashton Jeanty absolutely could mimic what Kenneth Walker III did in Seattle for the last 6 games. He had a brilliant run, if you don't know, 561 yards, I think, in their last 6 games of the season. This one is the same play concept, I believe, from Seattle's NFC divisional round win over the 49ers. 12 personnel group like all of these. Barner on the left, Sarbert on the right, 1 tight end to the right, 1 tight end to the left. Same concept. You're going to get a tight end motion across pre-snap. In this case, he's going to kick out that edge defender who looks like a defensive lineman. The frontside tight end who doesn't motion is going to go get the frontside inside linebacker. Occasionally, sometimes he'll get a strong safety who might motion up into the box. But Kenneth Walker's immediate path is going to go against the grain or opposite of the tight end who went in motion. And in this case, he winds it all the way back. I think if you look at the scheme, oftentimes, especially from the receiver blocking standpoint, you can kind of tell where this one's designed to go. And so what I'm talking about is how Cooper Kupp veers to the inside and then digs out this defensive back who's walked up. I think that is a little bit of a tell. Once we watch the film, I don't mean, live speed. Once we watch the film, it's a little bit of a tell as far as where this play is designed to go. You got the kick out block by the tight end, Barner moving up to the inside linebacker, Kupp veering to the inside, and then digging out that strong safety. And sure enough, that's exactly where Kenneth Walker III winds this thing back. It's a very intentional concept. I think, A, it fits with the skills of Ashton Jeanty, number one. Number two, it's a slightly different plan that Kubiak uses with the run game. He wants to make your second level players have to hesitate because they don't know if the run concept is actually going to hit here, like the one you saw against the Patriots, or if it's going to be designed to wind or possibly cut back. Let me give you one more play to kind of illustrate the point that I'm trying to make. And you get a really great angle from the All-22. This is one of the late season matchups between the Seahawks and the Rams. A very similar play. In fact, Kenneth Walker III he's off screen to you guys left. I screen record to get these plays set up. And so, I omitted him or perhaps zoomed in too much when I did so. But try to focus on Cooper Kupp's path. It's the same 12 personnel ace formation. The Rams have rolled up a safety. So these are their 2 inside linebackers. Safety who's rolled up into the box. They are in their base 3-4. And then there's a free safety back in, what almost acts as the middle of the field. Motion across, and Kupp is going to go get the safety who's rolled up. Watch his angle of approach. This is not a regular zone, if you ask me. I think this is entirely designed to come back to this side. And the reason I'm trying to, make that point hit home so much is because you have the guard stepping back on the defensive tackle, right tackle stepping out on the outside linebacker or edge defender, Cooper Kupp going to get the strong safety who's rolled down in the box. But the initial flow of the tight ends and the offensive line is to all move in that direction. They're trying to get the Mike linebacker out of there. In fact, they don't even block him. Cooper Kupp and Sundell is the center. They actually end up both going to that strong safety. And then Kenneth Walker III winds this thing back through that precise lane. The only difference is the defensive tackle crosses Anthony Bradford's face, and then Walker has to bounce this back one gap wider, if you ask me, leaving the corner unblocked to the backside. It's Kobe Bryant, or a rough game that night. This is, if you ask me, a very diverse run game as far as where the intention is, as where Kubiak's intention is for the run ball to be run, which gap for it to hit. Are there times where the running back is reading it? Of course, absolutely. Kenneth Walker III, I think, was exceptional at it. There's no reason why you, as a Raiders fan, can't expect Ashton Jeanty to have similar impact, but over the course of the 17-game regular season. His 12 personnel groups, they're efficient, they're very precise, and there's always a reason for where he attacks, in my opinion. It's a very diverse offense. I think this concept, either a designed wind back or just the cutback option built into it, it fits perfectly with Ashton Jeanty's agility and his physical skills. We'll do one more play from this same formation, 12 personnel. This whole video is designed to focus on 12 personnel. I don't think I'm capable, and I don't know that it's possible for someone in one video to focus on all of the different things that a competent, professional level offensive coordinator like Klint Kubiak offers on a week-by-week basis. So I feel like I have to break this down into smaller chunks, and I wanted to focus on 12 personnel. So we did the play-action passes to begin, some foundational run concepts. Let's do a screen that I really, really like. And again, it happens when the defense walks up the strong safety to kind of create this 5-3 look. 5 down linemen or 3 down linemen and 2 stand-up ends. 3 second-level defenders. 2 of them are inside linebackers. 1 of them is a strong safety. Again, I think this is what Kubiak wants, especially when you play man. He knows how to attack it. I think he wants to see you get in an 8-man front and play man because he's got a multitude of ways to exploit it. And here's one. Motion by the tight end across could be that, toss double on the edge defender. It's not here. In fact, the frontside tight end, who's stationary, pass pros, and then 81 kind of leads his way out in front. It ends up being a running back screen down here to the boundary to Kenneth Walker. How do they create this 5-on-2? First of all, you've got man coverage here, and then also man coverage up to the top of the screen on the outside receiver, which is Cooper Kupp. Again, I'm zoomed in a little bit when I screen record for obvious reasons. So he is occupying the top side corner, the boundary side corner or bottom side corner, taking JSN. He kind of passes JSN off. Fortunately for the Rams, their edge defender hangs out because there's no one there to possibly deal with the running back. In this case, it's a 5-on-2, 4 lead blockers, and Kenneth Walker. Huge gain down here to the bottom side. It's away from where the strong safety walked up. A lot of these plays I'm showing you out of a 12 personnel ace formation or ace set, that strong safety's rolling up to the field. Klint Kubiak knows that. An added layer to this, or maybe multiplier effect, is if you've got athletic offensive linemen, Zabel and Sundell both, I think, working down the field. Certainly the Raiders are going to have to draft some offensive linemen. I'm familiar with DJ Glaze. I'm from Maryland. He's a Maryland guy. I've got some familiarity there. I definitely think that there was some dereliction of duty as far as who was assigned to coach the offensive line there last year and how it certainly worked out. I expect Klint Kubiak to tolerate absolutely zero of that, in my opinion. I gave you some basic play action plays and then run concepts. Earlier on in the video, when I showed the Derek Young catch against the Bucs, I talked about Klint Kubiak and Sam Darnold trusting everyone and anyone that gets out there on that field, particularly in a regular season game. And I want to give you an illustration of that. So it's against the Rams in the NFC divisional round. Third quarter, this is after a punt was muffed by the Rams. And Derek Young, ironically, was the guy who recovered it. The very next snap, it's a 1st and 10. I think it's a 17-13 lead at this point. Designed play here to Jake Bobo, who perhaps you've never heard of, a very underrated physical blocker who was an undrafted wide receiver, I believe out of UCLA. But in any case, the Rams are going to corner blitz from the downside of the screen. And, Sam Darnold prepared for it. Was Klint Kubiak expecting it? I'm not sure, but the play call is perfect for the coverage that is shown. And so JSN is alerting Sam Darnold right now that this corner is set up like he's going to blitz. And the way that the Rams deal with this corner blitzing off the edge, is this safety kind of rotates down to play underneath, if you will, against JSN, and the middle of the field free safety rotates over the top. Effectively, you could perhaps call it a double team on JSN post snap. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. In any case, it's a designed play with two receivers in the route, one of which is JSN, the other one is Jake Bobo. It's just a cool play call that perfectly fits the coverage slash blitz that the Rams offered. I'm trying to talk about scheme here, to be honest with you. But you should also talk about or find people who are willing to discuss preparation and understanding of the coverages you're going to see. I'm not able to explain it in a professional manner like others are. In my opinion, KLINT Kubiak, or whoever was responsible for that in Seattle, that is an underrated aspect that could come to Las Vegas with him. And that is being able to predict the coverages that defenses are in, depending on your formation and your personnel group, and then exploit it with a particular pass concept. In this case, once again, it's to a guy who doesn't get a ton of targets during the regular season, Jake Bobo. He actually had some clutch third down catches in these matchups against the Rams, but in this case had a touchdown catch to put him up 24-13 in the NFC divisional round. Now I'll give you one more. Obviously, the previous play was not the ace formation. It technically would be called Trey. Here's another 12 personnel group. It actually starts out in ace, one tight end to the left, one tight end to the right, and then they're going to motion down to what I refer to as YY trips. Basically, the two tight ends are going to line up next to each other with someone to the outside. In this case, it's a wide receiver. Kubiak, first of all, is a guy who's willing to run the football back to this side, to the one receiver side, away from any tight ends or fullbacks. There's a lot of play callers, even at the NFL level, that will only run the football back to a one receiver side if they have a fullback set up in the backfield to lead the way, or if a tight end works across the heels of the offensive line. Essentially, we're talking about their split zone, where the tight end would kick out the edge defender, the offensive line would work in the other direction, and the running back would have this kind of option to cut it back underneath that kick out block. I recognize there's a lot of lines on the screen. Forgive me if that none of that makes sense. My point is, Kubiak, because he's willing to run the football back there, it sets up play action out of 3-by-1 formations, trips formations. Most people that I know at least call this YY trips because the two tight ends are next to each other. In any case, there's a lot of offensive coordinators who don't do that. Forgive me if I belabored the point. So the play concept here, again, is taking advantage of the fact that Kubiak knows he's getting manned. JSN up to the top side of the screen. I think it's Forbes assigned to guard him up there. To the downside of the screen, Cooper Kupp. And watch the route by Barner. It's this yellow route here, around the 20 to the 14-yard line, somewhere in that range. He'll kind of hedge back to the top of the field. I'm talking about, in here, in that space there. And it's really going to manipulate free safety, who's just off screen for you guys. It's very similar to the Super Bowl route. The only thing is it happened from the other side of the field. I'm talking about what Barner is doing right here. It's very similar to that route, the Barner touchdown against the Patriots. Even that you've got two receivers who end up really close to each other, one of which is a tight end, one of which is a receiver, JSN. He crosses that safety's face, totally leaves him behind. You can see the safety has fallen down. This is a huge moment. Kubiak, I think, likes to attack down the field with the pass game from 12 personnel groups. And Sam Darnold was exceptional at it in 2025, to be honest with you. Obviously ended up winning the Super Bowl. I think Kubiak will be able to handle any quarterback in a way that improves their efficiency and their ability to attack down the field. Sam Darnold did some things that he deserves credit for, being able to escape plays, especially in the Super Bowl, make some plays with his feet that maybe others didn't expect him to do. Kubiak's got a great system. This is only a very small piece of it. What percentage? Maybe 6 to 8%, or perhaps as much as 10. It's 12 personnel, so somewhat limited in my focus. I'll give you a little bit more if you want in a different, separate film study video. Forgive all the annotations on the screen if you're not used to that. It's necessary at this point in time for me to be able to produce content on YouTube in a way that gets through the algorithm without my work being cited for content ID. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section. Number one, I don't want to say extensive knowledge of the Kubiak system, but I kept, my estimation is probably 60% of the plays categorized and in a way that I can quickly produce content from it. So if you guys, as Raiders fans, enjoyed this one, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, if you have any other suggestions for videos that I could do related to Kubiak being hired there, I wouldn't mind trying to get those done here during the offseason. I will say this. Some Raiders fans, if you've listened this long, you may actually remember me. Before 2021, I did a series of previews on the Ravens-Raiders games, a week one game that season, and you guys, Raiders fans, helped my old channel absolutely blow up. I mean, it went from, I think, 3,000 subscribers to like 12,000 in the span of 2 or 3 weeks. It was an amazing thing for me, and so I've just got nothing but gratitude for that fan base and how they treated me during that time, which was, obviously years ago. This is my second channel since then, because the first one got destroyed or deleted by YouTube. But in any case, if you guys enjoyed this one, let me know in the comment section, number one. And if you think that my work here deserves, a little bit more exposure, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.